Hey, welcome everybody. On today's show, it's what we call our Be About It show. We'll explain that in a second. But today, basically, what we intend to do is spend the next 40 or so minutes showing you AI example after example of how we're either helping ourselves, our own companies, our people we consult for personally, put AI into practice. And that's really what we're going to be showing you. So it's going to be pretty visual, but we will do our best for folks that are listening to us on our podcast platforms. They can't see the screen. Obviously, you can always go back and watch what we're doing on our YouTube feed and look at all the examples after the fact. But we will also try to explain what's going on through them all together. So we're going to move pretty quickly on this one. Before we get going, let me tell you a little bit about the show. This is the Daily AI Show. We're here every day live at 10 a.m. Eastern. I should say every weekday live at 10 a.m. Eastern. This is show 420 at this point. And with me today are Jimmy, Andy, Beth, and I'm Brian. I think we'll probably have Carl here in a little bit. And before we get going, guys, let's go ahead and show what the motivation was for doing this show. It actually comes from LinkedIn. So I'm going to pull it up on my screen super quick. And this comes from somebody on LinkedIn. I do not know her. I actually saw this from somebody else sharing it. Her name is Jen Allen Newth. And the title up the top says 99.99% of my LinkedIn feed. So I'm just going to turn the volume up on this and we're going to listen to her. It's okay if you can't see it. Just listen to her and we'll talk about why this inspired today's show.
If you're not using AI, you're going to be left behind. You won't be replaced by AI, but you will be replaced by people who use AI. Oh my God, we're just saving so much time and efficiency using AI. I is like so much more intelligent than HI, which is high human intelligence. I love you all, and I love that everybody is so hot and bothered over AI. But if you're going to write a post about how freaking awesome AI is, can you at least include a specific example instead of just talking about it? Be about it. Bye.
Okay. I love that so much. And I think it's fair to point, poke fun at yourself a little bit. We talk about AI a ton, obviously, on this show. And I just love that from Jen because you do see that on LinkedIn and it's important. It's an important message as much as she's sort of being sarcastic through it. And I love her tone of voice and stuff like that. To every once in a while go like, hold on, these aren't just big pie in the sky ideas. These are things that like I'm definitely putting in place. That I definitely have clients, sales teams all over the place. Same with Beth and Jimmy and Andy with everything we're working on, and then internally with the Daily AI Show. So that's the input for this show is like what Jen said. It's like, okay, all right. So we're about to be about it for the rest of this time. And we're just going to kind of go in round robin. We all have examples to share. We're going to try to keep them to like, 2 minutes at a time and just run through. So first up for us is Jimmy with the first example. Tell us what you got, Jimmy.
So, my focus for these examples today has been what can I apply to the show process, right? Everybody knows that putting on the show takes a lot of effort, and we want to make sure we can streamline, just like Jen said, save so much time and energy with AI. So let me go ahead and show the one of our or what at least one of my main use cases here. And essentially, it's what we use for transcript and summary generation based upon our episode. Now, this used to exist in a different system, so I just recreated it here so I have something to show you. We had initially created it in Respell, but like we had said in the other show, Respell recently got bought by Salesforce, and they literally shut the service down. So without access to that, we had to find an alternative. So here's N8N. And let me give you a quick rundown of what we're doing here. We'll take the transcript from our show. That's generated a couple of different ways. When I process it, I usually just grab it from either the service that we're using, or that often has a transcript capability, or the editor that I might be running the video through. Then we just pop it into Google Drive to start the trigger, and it goes through our process. We bring it into N8N. We extract the text from the actual file, and then we run our models to grab the summary, generate the chapters, merge that all in together, and then finally we convert it to HTML. And the reason we do that is mainly to upload to certain sources in where the text that you want to input just digests better in HTML, such as Spotify when we put up our podcast there. So that's essentially the basic breakdown of how to take the transcript and break it down into those components. A very simple application, but serves as a larger trigger for various components for distribution, like YouTube, social media posts, things like that to fill in titles, descriptions, and those kinds of things. So it's essentially the starting point for a lot of the post processing or post production for the episodes themselves, and that's kind of what I'm focusing on with this. I do have some additional components that we can get into, and if we have time, I'll go into some enlightening moments that I came across when trying to create some of these file manipulations and extensions that you might want to know about N8N in particular.
Awesome. All right. Next up, by the way, Carl has joined us. Welcome, Carl. And Andy, you're up next. What do you got for your first demo?
Okay, let me share my screen. Give me just a second to make that happen here. I'm going to this window, and now you should see a beautiful image of enchanted unicorns. This work, you're looking at Canva. Canva is an AI-enabled graphic arts and document development platform. Really, really capable. But this client has these 228 page long things where there's a lot of text, and going in and asking the AI in Canva to use its magic write capability to make changes and corrections to spelling, grammar, etc., would result in lots of changes being made that would in effect destroy the voice and the uniqueness of that particular author's style. So it doesn't really work well to do it in there. So what I built instead for that is this thing called the Oracle Card Editor. And so I'm in a custom GPT, and I'm using not the create system that you can use that allows the AI to build this functionality for you just by talking to it, but I'm in the configure mode. So here's instructions. The user is going to paste the draft text of a new Oracle card in the message. And then I want you to maintain the style and format of the examples provided down here in your knowledge base, and then edit the draft text to improve clarity of expression, correct grammatical errors, spelling errors, capitalization, and hyphenation, and output a revised draft which highlights in bold any words, phrases, or sentences that have been changed from the original. So the user, and by the way, because this is a custom GPT, those clients can use this. I can publish this to them and allow them to use it. And I'm going to show you subsequent to this a different model of using OpenAI's tools to do a more complex process, but one which is only available to me. And that's the projects feature of OpenAI. So here they paste in the text of one of the pages, and it comes back. And by the way, it says, here's the revised draft. I made light clarifications for flow, clarity, and consistency while preserving your voice and message. Changes are in bold as requested. Thank you very much. Now, this I've enabled down here, I've enabled Canvas and Code Interpreter. And the reason for that is I want them to be able to edit what is presented here, either accepting or rejecting those changes in the Canvas. And I'm in the preview of the editor, so I'm not going to show that right now, but you get the idea. This allows them to get edits proposed by the AI and allow them to accept or reject those edits based on how well it's followed their model. Okay. We're not asking any should I go on to my next one, or are we going to?
No, we'll bounce to Beth next. But I do, you know what I really like about what you just showed to Andy, before we get to Beth is just that how you asked it to bold words and really make it pop off the screen where the edits were made. It's like such a simple, easy thing, but I had actually never really thought to use an editor in that way to make it pop off the screen. So I just think that's like, it's such a simple solution, but done really well using AI to get something done fast for you and make it so visually you can quickly scan through and see where edits were made to it. So it's super cool. Just easy solution, but people don't think of, right? So there you go. Beth, you're up next.
Okay, so one of the things that I do after the show is I copy all the chat that comes through to our studio, and I clean it up and I analyze it. And that's because the live chat is available after the show, but it takes about 24 hours for YouTube to add that in. So if there are things that I want to know from the chat, that is something that I check when I'm analyzing it. So, just so you can see. Hello. That does not. Yes, here we go. All right. So when the live chat gets copied, I have these like there's a lot of extraneous data. Show on stream, Jude saying first, 10 a.m. Sometimes there are also little icons that happen. So that's the data that gets put in. And I will stop sharing that and then share the Perplexity tab, which is that. So I have a DOS show comment analyzer in Perplexity, and I copy the information in. And so in yesterday, this gives me the commenters by frequency. Greg, good for you. 41 beat out Jude. Jude is often near the top. Then we have timeline highlights, and then we can come down. Who did we miss show ideas? You guys put show ideas. Sometimes they happen really quickly. People wanting to know Anne's background. Absolutely. Justin asking about the Meta Ray Bans. Show ideas, important points. And then there are B stories and pond analysis. And yes, I'm not going to go super far into this, but Gareth repeatedly mentioning Manus AI for various projects was a B story. There is the hair saga, which we all knew yesterday when Andy referred to himself as a gray hair, but did not produce actual hair while that was being discussed. There was some very animated things, and then pun ranking, which I'm not going to show because you should never analyze your puns. But that is what happens to our show comments after the show.
That is so super cool. That you talk about something that saves just a massive amount of time. That if you had to do that manually, you'd be doing that for a while. Today, I started the show by saying this is episode 420, so I think we already know where one of the B chat flows will be because I already saw it in the chat for mentioning that it was episode 420. All right, so up on for my first example here, might not all be fairly short, but here's one of them. Make sure I have the right screen up. Well, I thought I was going to have it immediately in front of me here. 1 second. Sorry, guys. I think I have to do the whole window. That's why. Okay. Sorry about that. So this is one of two. I'm going to do the first custom GPT. Then I'm going to talk about a different one. But this custom GPT is just a good example of bringing in a lot of research together. Now, OpenAI and ChatGPT have gotten a lot smarter over time, so custom GPT has naturally got smarter, but it's introduced some other issues along the way with how you prompt. And so what I've been doing lately is this new idea of what I call router prompting. And it's really been a game changer for me with custom GPT. So I'm going to show you two different examples. This is one of them. But on the front side, from the user side, there's a button as soon as you start the custom GPT that says, I'm ready to begin. And the only thing it wants for you in this particular case, because it's going to do company research, is the company name and the main website URL. So I said Beehive and beehive.com. That's the software that we use to put out our newsletter, pretty popular these days. So right up the bat, it starts with mission and value. What I like is we're getting our inline citations as well, which is really, really helpful. We have our leadership team, recent developments. This is new within, not inside ChatGPT, but within custom GPTs, that you're now starting to get this sort of visual appeal, sort of like a Perplexity, where we're actually having images brought in and stuff like that, which is super cool. We can see the sources there. It stopped after the first step, so I just told it to continue all steps. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. And then we get into everything from competitive landscape and marketing position, competitor strengths and weaknesses. So it's going to give me a SWOT analysis. It's going to do ICPs to target personas, key buyers. Once we get into step 4 here, industry insights and benchmarking. Step 5, strategic meeting preparation. So now what it's doing is it's pulling in everything from like what Scale does and comparing, contrasting that to this new client. So the idea of this custom GPT is you literally, other than some like keep going and, answering its questions and stuff, the gist of this custom GPT is, hey, I have a I have a potential new client. I have a brand new client. I'm the AE, but like the BDR is passing this on. I'm a customer success person, but somebody's passing this client on. And I might not have been in the loop from the beginning. I might not have seen all the emails. I might not have spun up on the company. I may not know enough about Beehive. So this is a very, very fast way to help people. Wouldn't just be in sales, but that's where we use it. And I've deployed it to get people super spun up at a super high level that you just wouldn't be able to do otherwise. And this takes like 3 minutes total to run. If you were to have to do this on your own, it's probably 45 minutes plus, and you can just see how long it would take to go and find all these quality sources. So, and I'm going to show you a variation of this in a little bit, but this is the first style of custom GPT. And when I come back around to me, I'm going to show you a different way to use a custom GPT. Also using this, I have this idea of this router. And what I mean by that is we have the central instructions that then talk to a document that specific purpose is to be a router that then tells it when it should look at other knowledge documents that needs to pull in for information, which I have found since putting this new this new uh, process in place for custom GPTs, it's made custom GPTs like exponentially smarter. Like where I was always hitting limitations and its ability to come back and look at additional sources, it now will continue and do super deep dive, heavy research where I wouldn't traditionally been able to do that. I would have run into limits and things like that. So that's my first one. Carl, do you have anything that you want to share as far as examples? Say you want us to keep going around the horn.
No, I have one. I have one.
Yeah.
Do I have trying to share? Okay, there it is. Cool. So the one that I wanted to share was the process that we use at 0 to 60, where we do discoveries. So essentially the process is we meet with, let's say, a department, and we use Fireflies, but we actually meet in person. So we don't do this online. We are in a room with 3 or 4 representatives from the actual, and in this case, this is the permits and planning division. And then about an hour and a half, we have full conversations with the division about really, we give them a set of about 20 questions to think about it before they come to the session. And then it's a pretty open-ended session. Really, the focus is not AI. It's more of the focus on what are your processes, workflows, anything that you do on a regular basis. So we start with, what does the business unit do? What's the tasks that take the most time or make the most amount of their day, their week, their month? And then also, what are some of the repetitive processes? What are data-driven processes? Anything involving prediction? We actually took that from Paul Reitzer's The Three Pieces, right? Data, repetitive data, and predictive. And then we pretty much ask the questions, dig a little deeper. Usually each session's an hour and a half to 2 hours. So we get a full transcript. We have a physical recorder there. And then we record it. upload it into Fireflies. And then what we do, we take the actual transcript itself, not the summary. Then this is kind of evolved with the tools that we got, which is really neat. This is a different client. This is IDS, a different client. So we were talking their sales team. So essentially what I wanted to do is take all the transcripts. I want to analyze it. I want to recommend AI solutions. I want to recommend non-AI solutions. Here's a couple examples of the type of questions we're asking. This is the kind of output we want. We actually have a very specific output, and I'll show you that in a second. Here's the context, a little bit of what IDS is. Then we have everything that was said in that meeting. Then we go through, I use O1 Pro with Deep Research now. Deep Research has allowed us to, I wanted to search additional potential AI solutions. It just gives me an idea of what potentially we could recommend. Then, that. Then from there, essentially, it gives me this. And once I get the answer, actually switch on over, I clean it up, I put it into a Word doc, because what we do is we give it back to the client. So in this case, I give it back to sales, and then we give them their, what the session summary, what the key themes, what the actual AI solutions. So I'm still working on this part, what the non-AI solutions, because in those sessions, we don't just hear AI stuff. We hear all workflows and processes. So we actually have AI solutions. In the notes we take personally, we probably would add a couple things here that we heard in addition to what the AI actually, picked up and transcribed. Then we have an impact assessment of what the actual AI solutions efficiency gain, prerequisites, what they actually need to do to make it happen. Then we actually have the short, medium, and long-term roadmap. So I go back here, I give it an idea. It's like, okay, here's the example. I want you to do a roadmap for me. Here's the roadmap. And then once I have everything here, I actually clean everything up. So once I have everything in the Word doc, we're about 65% complete. And once this is done, this is sent back to the client for one department. And then, so in this case, if this was like 5 or 6, usually 5, 6 departments usually per business we go through, we take all of this and then we rerun it on a different O1 Pro to get like a different thread to get the strategy that we want. So this incorporates all of this. So we have recommended pilots to start, a high-level roadmap, introduction, background, methodology we used, overall findings. Again, we run this. This is about 50, 60% complete. This was the draft version of it. And yeah, why we recommended it, go in depth into the recommended pilots. So usually each department, each business gets about 40 to 50, depends on how many departments, 40 to 50 AI solutions. And then from there, we also look at, here's the road. So the strategy roadmap is for the whole town. What we want them to do, financial considerations, stakeholder, like the communication they need out to their stakeholders, external stakeholders, whoever else, and conclusion and next steps. Yeah, that's kind of.
That's awesome, man. Like, I mean, I think it's obvious here, but like, can you even quantify how much time that probably saves your team at 0 to 60 putting something that together compared to like before using AI?
Yeah.
Is there even a number you can put on that? Hours, right? I mean, whatever it is, it's hours and hours and hours.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I mean. Like, we run pretty lean in terms of the actual people, but we don't need, I think we have 7 or 6. I think calculating all the work we do, we're probably running at around 15, closer to 20, just because of the amount of AI that everybody uses. So,
And I want to quickly point out, but then we're going to kind of speed up here and go back to Jimmy and go through a round. Otherwise, we won't get through too many of these.
no, I'm only doing one. I have to go pretty.
No,
soon.
totally fine. I'm not because you, Carl. Just trying to keep the timing and stuff like that. No, what I was going to say is like, I think what I really love about your example is number one, your client is actually getting a higher level, more improved result than probably if you had tried to go about it doing with human hours, right? Because AI is enabling you to do deeper research faster and probably uncovering things that maybe you wouldn't have thought of. So it's not only that AI is speeding you up, but it's actually speeding you up and improving the quality of what you can bring to your clients, which I think is really important to point out because a lot of people just think AI is about speed, but it's really about speed plus quality, which is unmatched, right? That's one of the reasons why we think a lot of people should be using more of AI. Okay, Jimmy, back to you, and we'll try to go a little faster if you guys don't mind on this round.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, I wanted to continue with the theme of post processing for the show. So this is another component that I started building out because we plan on or we have a campaign to release net new types of videos and content for the channel. So keep an eye out for that. But one of that process is to streamline our distribution process, right? So um, you watch our stream on YouTube. You can also, some of you might have caught it on LinkedIn. And we also have a TikTok channel that we release various shorts and clips to. And so we're going to be ramping up the content generation side of that. So to do that, I'm building out this AI tools agent from N8N that will use its own system prompts to bring in the workflow from like our transcript and summary workflow to bring in that information along with additional video and content, and it will choose which of these distribution channels that meets the parameters and the video meets what parameters to be distributed. So that's the next big piece that I'm working on, and we should see that up and running pretty soon. And I'll leave it there.
That's gonna be a huge one for us. A lot of the things you're building on the back end, Jimmy, what we're doing on NNAN is we're already doing well with how much we use AI for the AI show, the meta part of it. But this is next level stuff that we're gonna have. Andy, you're up next.
All right. I'm sharing my screen. I'm showing you a project that's in the so-called vibe programming space. Um, I'm not seeing the screen, but maybe I
Me
can.
too.
Okay. You see it. Okay. So what you have here, I'm building an application which is capable of using AI to generate a complete course and then enroll people into that course, have them go one by one through various uh, um, sections. Like here's guiding conversations with LLMs. Lesson one is about understanding them. Lesson two about the goal of prompting and so on. You see, it has all this data, a quick description, and then the keywords or vocabulary that are associated with it. And so over here on the left is where I'm building this. And I wanted to just give you a sort of an architectural picture of what it is that I'm building. There's a Supabase database which has in it all the context data that's necessary for the AI to do this kind of lesson generation that will be presented to the user. And I'll show you that in a moment. That Supabase data is the source for the context that generates the output that I'm looking for, but it has to be combined before it's sent off to the AI. It has to be combined with the prompt template that I've created, which is also sitting over there in Supabase. And I have to have an admin system to allow people to change the prompt and also to make other adjustments to the way this whole thing is flowing. So this has taken me many months. I started out with Replit. I shifted to Bolt.new, and then I ended up here at Lovable. And Lovable has gotten me farther, but I think I went back to Replit or Bolt, they've advanced over the past 4 months, and I could probably do the same thing with those as well. But I'm now practiced in all three of those. let me give you just an example over here on the left of what it's like to work with the AI assistant that's coding in Lovable for me, because I can show you that here's a preview of what is happening over here. But here behind the scenes, if I let this sandbox start, you'll see here's the code that is being generated to do that. So how do I get that code to happen? I haven't written a single line. Here's the way it works. I would say here, like I'm in the middle of process where I'm trying to add now to this UI that you see that I'll show a generated lesson about in just a moment. But this process here, uh, I want to add to the UI the ability of the user to chat with an AI tutor about the lesson. And so I'm in the middle of all of that. And so I say, hey, I would like the cached lesson content to be included in the compiled tutor prompt, which is more efficient to have the edge function at a system prompt fetched from Supabase, or have the tutor prompt, which is editable in my admin user interface, include the simple lesson content definition over there. So here, Lovable comes back and it says, here, this is what's happening currently. It's hard coding a message. Here's two possible approaches, editable, and then it comes back with its recommendation. The most efficient approach is option 2. Let me implement this approach for you. And it goes about doing this. I've updated the edge function to support an editable prompt template with placeholders in your admin UI. All right, so that gives you an idea of how easy it is now, but you have to understand what software service architecture looks like, not only the basic components like the database and the application server, the client side, and the back end. So you have to know how to guide the Lovable or Replit and or Bolt.new into where it's going to go. But here, now I can choose as a user, this first lesson, and I just click on it, and here it is. Now this came back instantly because I've implemented an efficiency, which is once I've generated the lesson based on the data that Supabase is using as the context data for the lesson, which I can tune to get different results here, and I can change the prompt to get different results over here. Now I cast the entire generated lesson into Supabase so that when a user comes along, if there has never been any change to the context data, then it's going to just pull it from the database. So it doesn't have to go through the whole OpenAI content generation workflow process that I've built previously to do what you see here. Now you'll get a chance to play with this because we're going to publish this on the dailyaishow.com website, and you'll be able to go through this prompting course. And then as you go through each lesson, you'll mark it as complete. It'll track where you are as an individual user, and so on. So that's an example of what I'm doing with AI.
And this is a project, we mentioned this before. Sensei is a project that you've been working on, a lot, Andy. And like you said, you've gone through 3 different, coding tools, learned a ton along the way. But it's a really, really ingenious idea. And even like you're getting kudos in the chat for it as well. But it's actually ends up becoming a really cool template. And we've talked about that, about how it can be deployed with other industries, other learning modules, other things like that. So it's like, we can't wait for it to all be done. And you put a ton of effort into it. So it's going to be super, super fun. Beth, you're up next.
Yes, I am. Here we go. All right. So, yes. All right. So, it is no surprise, I think, that a bunch of the information that we use for the show comes from X, because X is really the place where AI is being discussed in real time. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I understand what AI is discussing. So this is by Imagine AI Live. Mu Deng is a pygmy hippo, and I might really need to know that. Right up here is the Grok button, and it automatically explains what the post is about. So I have already clicked that, and it gives me the background of it. I could then interact with it and just ask questions back and forth. And this is part of the free Grok service right now, and I expect that that part of the service is likely to remain still available. I know we're trying to whip through these, so I will go quick to a next one. You all see that we do our thumbnails. These come from, you can see my uploads. So this over here on the left side of the screen is the image that was generated from Midjourney.
We're still seeing X.
Oh, yes, because I did not. Yeah, thank you very much.
That's okay.
Let me share. There we go. All right, so this is my Canva and my Canva example. Over here, we can see that this is the original image that was made in Midjourney. And I can do the background remover with, yeah, Canva has a background remover. This pattern behind the thumbnail is also something that was generated from Midjourney, right? So this is just a tech pattern that I created. And then I can pull that off to be transparent, basically. And then that gives our thumbnails a little bit of interest. This, I believe, is Brian on a scruffy day with a tad bit of, I don't know what else I asked for. But people have noticed that our thumbnails have some vague resemblance to us, and that is true. There is a vague resemblance to us, and that is intentional. So those are my two examples. Grok, when you're reading X, and creating our thumbnails from Midjourney, and then putting the information together.
Very cool. Yeah, I wish I looked that good. I mean, vague example. So I need to glow up to that example, that AI example. Okay, so what I'm going to share now is two different AI workflows, but you'll notice most people notice this as being Salesforce. So there's two areas, right? Two main areas. There's lots of parts in Salesforce with the opportunities, but let's just look at contacts and let's look at accounts. So on your normal contact, obviously you have all the different fields that you could put in there, but something that I've been working with a lot and we're really starting to talk a lot of our clients to is using AI. So what I'm doing is I have N8N workflows running in the back. And as you can see down here under discovery call prep, we have all the information coming in for this contact, Aaron Broski, who works for the company Hibu. And this workflow also already knows everything about Scaled, right? So what happens is this information is processed through multiple different nodes and different things and inside a complex workflow in N8N. And then it's bringing it back together and putting a report together that's going to help anybody who's talking to this guy, Aaron, get ready for a discovery prep call based on pain points for Aaron. It's also got information about, if we scroll down here, contact overview. So now this is doing a deep dive research using Perplexity Sonar Pro on Aaron Brodsky. He's the VP of Sales Enablement. So all this information about how he might think, pain points he might be feeling, all this good stuff. Then if we get into count overview, we're getting more of I'll show you a larger one in a second, but sort of a concatenate or summary of the account, the company that is, with things that are going on with them, the industry, sub-industries, and all this. And the reason why this is really, really great now is because like for Scaled, Salesforce is our single source of truth. So by putting this information and enriching the accounts and contacts and things like that inside Salesforce, what it allows us to do is then extract that data and then do other cool stuff with it. So for instance, this information can now be pulled and put into Outreach or SalesLoft or other email outreach sequences that need to be happened because this becomes the enriched AI data. And it's basically the gist of all this is it's taking work off the plates of already busy sales reps. And so here's another example of that. This is a company called Cymtric, don't know. Anyway, this is the company on here, same kind of idea. Here's our account prep field now. And now this one is a much longer one because it's on the account screen. So company overview and stakeholder, missions, values, employees. This is going to look similar because this is the API version, like Big Brother to the custom GPT that I just showed you earlier. So same idea, still can go into ChatGPT and do this through a custom GPT, and that's fine. We have lots of sales teams that do that. But also, we have lots of sales teams and sales managers that say, hey, it would be great if it was already in the place where my reps already are, which is a lot of times Salesforce. So now we're able to put all this information directly into Salesforce from competitive positioning, ideal clients. So our ICPs in there, our key buyer personas. So here are people that we would be referencing with that company, financial controls, ITs, right? Everything on and on and on. Industry insights and benchmarking. And again, this is connected to my company. So everything that's in there is already focused on, hey, how does this directly correlate with what we're doing at scale? It's not just a general, it's like, here's all the information about the company, but also here's why that's valuable to you if you're a rep at this particular company. And so just two examples, one on contacts, one on accounts, of how we're now using AI data to enrich Salesforce, which as a single source of truth, like it is for a lot of companies, or HubSpot, we can now push that data into every other connector that Beth would know way better than me. So we can take that data and do really, really amazing things with it. So those are the things I'm most excited about right now. And if we have time, I'll come back around and show you one more example of how I build out the Conundrum newsletter, but we'll come back around to that. So Jimmy, you want to go again if you have one?
Yeah, I think I showed the two main AI focused components of the post process that we're building out right now. And of course, there's plenty of modules we can build in, the YouTube module, the archive for AWS module, and things like that. But I don't. Something that Gareth pointed out is a lot of times people will think that automation automatically is AI. It's not. So I wanted to make sure I wasn't showing another example of a non-AI component. But I will take my little 60 seconds here to highlight a couple things when thinking about implementing the AI, especially through a tool like N8N, is you want to make sure you understand, and this is some of the nitty-gritty things, is whatever system that you're using, make sure to understand its unspoken or unwritten caveats. So one of the things about NAN that I discovered by building these things out is everything's loaded into memory. So you might think that files are stored on the local system, and in most cases, it is. But when you're running your process, it loads into memory. So just make sure you have enough memory. And also, a side note for AWS, don't include any extra spaces at the end. It really gives me like an hour's worth of pulling my hair out. Okay, I'll leave it at that. So a little couple of tidbits for just implementing on that along those lines. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what comes out of our next AI.
Yeah, for sure. Andy, you got another one?
Yeah, I got one. So now that you have the context of what a Sensei, the lesson generating application is, now I have a different thing working in OpenAI, which is going to improve the quality of the lessons automatically. And it's in a project, which is a little different from a custom GPT. Up here on the left, you see all my custom GPTs and ones that I have used that are from the open library of custom GPTs that are out there. You see down here the Oracle card editor that I showed before. But here I have a project, lesson and prompt editing. What I've done here is I've uploaded these 3 files to it. This is the prompt for the Sensei content generation. Here's the context data for lessons with order numbers 26 through 49. So there's a CSV file I uploaded. And I've also given it a markdown file with some guidance on how to improve prompts when we get to that process. And then I have some detailed instructions over here. You're an expert lesson designer and lecturer at the high school and college level, and you're good at it. And now what I want you to do, and I just provide this all in language. I didn't provide much structure here, but I say, okay, the file context data has rows for each topic specific lesson in the course. The compiled prompt for the lesson content generation will retrieve that, several field values for that. And then It's going to combine it with the prompt template and generate a lesson. What I'm asking it to do in this set of instructions is to get the context data for the next lesson, generate the lesson, evaluate the lesson, then figure out what new additions to the lesson would make it better, figure out what context data would need to be added to the Supabase eventually, right? But it's not in its own Supabase, but what will be added to that context CSV file, and then report back your suggestions and so on, all the way down to now save the final revised context data in the CSV file you are building for the user. All right. So this process kind of flows pretty naturally and easily. Here's an example of it. I just say, okay, a couple days later, I haven't done much. Okay, go look and see. Oh, we did the lesson 32 last. Okay, now go to lesson 33. It says, okay, I'm going to retrieve the data. I'm going to generate the lesson. I'm going to evaluate it for logic and coverage of key concepts and words. And then I'm going to suggest improvements to it. So here's getting the data. It's generating the lesson. It's analyzing the keywords, looking through all kinds of, different things. It's adding some ideas about, what it could do to improve it. And here's, a further analysis of it. It's breaking it down into narrative blocks. These are all parts of the process of analyzing the generated lesson that I don't have time to do, but it's doing it literally within seconds. Okay, advanced prompt techniques, emotional engagement, real world applications, and here's a recap, and so on. And then it says, here's evaluation of the lesson generation. You can see this is what goes on and on until finally, without me having to do a thing, it comes forward with down at the very bottom. I won't even continue to scroll, but it goes down and it'll actually output a CSV file format that I can then easily add to the CSV file as an improved context that has already been tested by generating the lesson again and then evaluating it and ascertaining whether it is actually improvement over the prior generation or not. That's just amazing to me that it can go through all those steps just by me saying, okay, lesson 34 now. And if I wanted to, if I had ultra confidence about not having to review all of that, which I was scrolling through, I would just say, go through the rest of the lessons and fix them.
Yeah, and in that case, you'd probably run into problems with it, especially with a custom GPT. So yeah, I get what you're saying, but it probably also wouldn't work. It caused you more pain than not. Also, what I like about that really quick, Andy, is that as AI evolves and new content and new topics come online, this gives you a really easy way to keep updating and making sure that people always have the latest and best of what's out there. You really set yourself up a system that, if some new topic drops tomorrow and it's like it's important, it's a new model type, it's not an LLM, it's something different. You can add that in there and have people basically learning about it within probably 48 hours if you just jumped on it right away, which is really, really impressive. I mean, just think about how hard that would be under traditional standards. So it's just such a cool process. Okay, Beth, did you have any more? I know you put two of yours together. Go for it.
Okay, so once again, I am thinking about the show all the freaking time. I have a project that involves finding the moments in our videos when there is laughter or some sort of interesting reaction happening. And as you know, our shows are almost an hour, so that's a lot. I tried a couple different ways of putting it on the cloud, but actually uploading the full video is quite a lot. So I tried this first in Google Colab, but it did not work. So this is me doing it on my machine because then it's already on my hard drive. I don't need to move it anywhere. So it is a laugh cam detector. And it's written in Python. I did this consultation with Perplexity. This is probably version, I don't know, 3 maybe. But basically, it is going through and it is first pulling the resolution of the video down and creating screenshots, one screenshot for every second of the video. And you can see that.
That's a lot of screenshots.
So it makes a low res option for us. And where's that? There we go. Uh hello. Sorry. Where is the yes, there we go. Thank you. So it has a branded, which would include these two parts don't work quite yet. But these are this laugh detector.py is the version that we were just looking at on my screen in Python. This is the low res detector. So these are all the screenshots that it's pulling. Then what happens is that I get a indication of we think that this is an interesting screen and we want to and it gives me a confidence threshold, so it has to have a confidence threshold of 0.7 in order for it to give me like, yes, I think this is interesting. And I will show yes. Sorry, where is it now? There's the window. And this is one of the successful pieces that got pulled up, right? So I think this personally, I think this is like a 10 out of 10. We don't know what Brian's thinking about. I'm cracking up. Andy is like, sure. And Junmi is also doing a little like, what's happening there?
Ways.
So this is another thing that it's not just that it's saving my time, it's that I could not do this. I could not do that kind of analysis. And I did that was the other thing I was going to show. I did I think it's 608 screenshot analyses. It goes to OpenAI 4.0 mini to do that, and 608 cost me 41 cents.
Wow.
Yep.
Jesus. Just think about that. 41 cents to do something that's, like you said, you couldn't do. And when you think about what it's doing for almost an hour show, that's insane. That's really cool, Beth. I didn't even know you were building that. That's like that just shows Beth's obviously strength in ability to code and do stuff. So, and you've taught me a lot of stuff in Google Colab over the year or two that we've been doing this. So that's super super cool to do that. It's a cool idea too.
It's less
And I
ability
just
to
want to reiterate how awesome this is going to be the basis of things, right? I think this could be expanded upon. This is sentiment analysis. This is emotional analysis. This is where we can correlate this with like watch times and watch points and see if there's a lot of things I think we can work this out. So I'm super impressed.
and actually it's less my ability to code and more my ability to ask the right questions. The first time it was built, it was using a legacy model of 4, and that's not the model anymore. So I needed to go back and forth with Perplexity about no, no, no. The cheapest model is going to be this one for this. So let's do it with that. I was like, oh, you're right. It takes the project down to like 40 cents or 5 cents or something from a buck. And that for us is the difference from something that could be workable and something that if you do it 20 times a month is not workable.
Right. Yeah, easily, right? Yeah, something is in the budget or it isn't in the budget. So that's a big one. All right, I will try to move fast here because we're up against the end. But um, here, going back to custom GPT, but it's a different type of custom GPT where and I think that's really important to point out. I wanted to point that out is that there are different ways to prompt custom GPTs depending on what the output is. In fact, I'll be training a coworker later today on exactly this. So in this particular instance, this is meant to do two things. This is called a discovery call trainer. So in this case, what we want to do is we not only want to help a sales rep or an AE or somebody in sales get ready for a discovery call, but we also want to help them when they get stuck. So here's a good example of it. Like I said, I'm ready to begin here. And it's like, great. Before we begin, tell me a little bit more about the type of like role playing you want to do for this discovery call. Who are you speaking with? What's the competitive insights? Qualify the prospect, right? What are you looking to accomplish on this? Here's some established in qualification criteria. Are any of these things that you're working on, right? So then I go ahead and I say, hey, I'm working for Scaled. And also, I told them a little bit about me. And then also, I answered the 4 questions above. And now what you see is here. Here's the discovery call role play setup. So now it's coming back to me as the rep and saying, okay, look, this is what I understand. Here's some questions that you might, because that was part of 4. It's like, have you prepared opening ended questions? And I'm like, no, I'll take the help. That's what I said right here. So it's now helping me with these open ended questions and different ways that I can already start preparing for how I might talk to this person. And then I'm like, okay, let's go with skeptical CRO because it asked me here. It's like, do you want some more challenging role play or do you want sort of the easy run? Right. So we usually want the harder one because ChatGPT can be a little bit easy sometimes. And so now we have the scenario kickoff. It's like, okay, that's me. I'm the AI strategist at Scaled. Me, CRO of the ChatGPT is playing the role CRO of MailChimp as a skeptical buyer. I'm going to push back. Great. All right. It's like, all right, let's begin the call. So blah, 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 ring, ring, ring. And immediately I'm like, I'm not sure how to start this call off the best. So I could have answered this and it would have worked back and forth with me. But immediately I can come out of the role play and pause and say, hey, help me here, because I'm not sure how I would approach this. So now we go into the actual training and we get help with why it matters and how I could approach this and how I would respond back to them, why it works, what the agenda is. And now it's like, hey, you give it a shot. So I did. And it's like, all right. So now it's coming back to me with the next answer. And so I guess it's your turn and it's giving me some suggestions like reframe their thinking and dig deeper into the current approach. So I'm getting a little nudge along the way as I go. And I give my answer here. By the way, you could have done this entire thing in voice mode. So you could have just spoken to it and had the actual voice call if you wanted to. And we get it back. And then again, I say, okay, I'm stuck here. Help me out. And again, we come out of the role play and here's some more suggestions on how I might respond to this CRO skeptical question, which is in this case, this person's pushing back on me by saying like, more isn't faster just because I get AI generated. Aren't I really kind of hurting my sales reps with learning how to sell? Totally fine. That might happen on a real call. So now we're like sort of getting the feedback. So, oh, and by the way, this is sort of like what I was talking about. I'm not going to dive into it, but you'll notice here, if I look at it, this is a really short prompt. Where this is, though, where the power of this prompt is going into these documents, this one specifically, which is our router, which is then telling it where else it needs to go and when. When do I pull into this? When do I come back? When this situation comes in, what knowledge do I need to have? When do I come back into the conversation? This is the brains of this shorter prompt. All this prompt is trying to do initially is say, hey, here are the guidelines and the setup and the act as and the context and criteria. But go to the router document when you need to know where to go next. What you think about it is really just how we work our workflows in like N8N. It's the same kind of concept, which is what encouraged me to try that out. This last one's really quick. Just because here we go. Just because I've talked about it on the show, but this is a really sort of fun, simple one. Every Saturday I've been putting out, so for the last 2 Saturdays, maybe 3, I've been putting out a new conundrum video, and that's fully AI generated. So how do I do that? I start in ChatGPT, and there's a bit of back and forth with me and ChatGPT in a project that I've already put some rules and prompting to, so it's not just out of nowhere. And I'll typically eventually get a conundrum that I like back. This goes directly into the newsletter. But now what I've been doing is taking this one, and now I go into Perplexity, and I have Perplexity debate both sides using deep research. So I want all 34 sources. I wanted to do a really good job. Then I take that debate and I take it over to Notebook LM, Google Notebook LM, and I put a couple little more prompting in there, some customization, and outputs basically right here, AI in the future parenting.
It's kind of wild to think about how AI is popping up.
And that conversation, that 13-minute conversation back and forth with some minor editing that has nothing really to do with AI, other than I will often use Video FX, which is by far the best video generator that I have ever seen. It's far and away better. And so I will use something like this, probably in like DaVinci Resolve 19, and I will start piecing all the things together. I'll put a little bit of edit video on it just so there's a moving screen, and then essentially maybe a show title or something like that. And then I will just uh, put in the show in there. And also, I go back to ChatGPT and I use this when I need to convert from the MP3 that I'm getting from Google Notebook LM, and I just convert it simply to an MP4 so I can put it all together as a blank black screen video that I can then build upon inside of DaVinci by putting other layers in there. So it's 99% AI. I always mention that when I put out the shows that, hey, this isn't the normal show, that this is something just fun and different to do. But that's how I do it. It's like straightforward. All right. If you guys have more of this, great. But if you do, I have to run. So are there any more or we'll wrap up? We're good? Okay, great. So thanks guys for hanging out. I hope this is super helpful. The idea of this obviously the inspiration came from that video from Jen on LinkedIn. So we wanted to be about it for a whole hour, which we did, showing you guys all the different ways that we're using AI. And honestly, this is just a drop in the bucket. These are the ones we thought were exciting to show. There's 20 more, there's 30 more different AI processes that we're using on the daily basis that are saving us umpteenth amount of hours, money, and a whole lot of other pain points. So I hope that was super helpful to you guys and gave you guys some inspiration on how you can go and play with AI and help it take, things off your plate as well. And you can use daily. This isn't just pie in the sky stuff. This is literally how we're operating and helping ourselves as well as clients as well. Have a great weekend. Don't forget the Conundrum show will come out tomorrow morning. We have the Sci-Fi AI show. Jimmy, Beth, maybe Andy will be there. That's at 1 p.m. Pacific today. So go check that out. That's on the Sci-Fi AI show YouTube channel. And then on Sunday morning, we'll have the next newsletter dropping. Sign up at thedailyAIshow.com. Like and subscribe. That's it. Have a great weekend. Bye.